So models are made for everyone, for designers to test ideas and develop solutions, for clients and their need to visualise space. They're really great for people that aren't used to reading architectural plans as a kind of democratising tool in the design process. They're also used by filmmakers to create worlds and tell us different stories, and for kids to play with. And we wanted to address some of those in this exhibition, and also think about how models can be used beyond the architectural profession itself. So in the exhibition, we wanted to look at how designers and engineers use models. So here we have some models by Foster and Partners. We have a one-to-one, which is life-size, beam section to test the structural properties of the wooden beams for the Maggie's Cancer Care Centre in Manchester. And here we also have the presentation model. So models are used by designers and engineers to test ideas and also to convey different solutions. So this model next to me here was made by Jorn Ortson, the architect of the Sydney Opera House, and he made it to help convince Arup, the engineer, that the geometry would work. Arup had walked out of the project, so the story goes, and Jorn Ortson realised that geometry would be possible based on the spheres of a circle. So he went to a local boat builder and had this model made, and you can see that it conveys the idea really clearly, and you can see the sails coming out of the geometry of the circle. And he took it to Arup, and the story goes that Arup was brought back on board. We also wanted to look at how models can be used for community, clients and collaborators. So we have this model by Studio Mutt, which is of the Bags Inside Out exhibition at the V&A. And it was made as a working tool to communicate the exhibition design to the client and the curators, helping them understand the 3D space clearly and directly without the need to interpret architectural drawings. Similarly, Cormordy Groark's Studio East dining model was used in the planning and stakeholder engagement process. It acted as an important on-site communication tool between the designers and the temporary works team, who assembled the pavilion out of scaffolding borrowed from the surrounding construction site. Some of the models, made for clients, appear so perfectly rendered it's as if they were copied from an existing dwelling. This tiny model of the Leopold buildings was made in 1872 and is of a tenement block of flats for the Improved Industrial Dwellings Company. We also have two neat suburban house models of East Hanningfield housing, designed by James Gowan and modelled by Paul Shepherd in 1975-76, and they're doll's house-like presentation models. Involving the client in the project by using the model as a communication tool was key to the design of a visually impaired client's new home, where So-and-So Studio created a tactile house map which the client could navigate by touch and then feed back on. And they call it a drawdle because it's a combination of a model and a drawing. Tactile models are also used for community consultation, like BDP's model of the Gloucester bus station, made so that visually impaired members of the public could participate in the planning of a new layout. Creating a model that democratises the design process through opening it up to people who might otherwise feel excluded or unable to participate was also a fundamental principle for the development of Our Lab's housing blocks. These blocks consist of CNC-roted plywood connected through magnetic joints and computer vision, a field of artificial intelligence. The models made with the blocks can be translated into instructions for robots that assemble full-scale elements into the buildings. They would make it possible for anyone to design their own home, keeping a catalogue of the designs online to inspire others. Sometimes the model becomes the only manifestation of an architectural intention, and we have Louis Kahn's monumental Kansas City office building model, which was made in 1972 for its potential developers, and it has the gravitas of a skyscraper, but it never made it beyond the model workshop. Models can be made with learners in mind or as instruments of understanding. The 1960s model of Evelyn Lowe Primary School in Southwark, London, was commissioned by the Department of Education and Science to help teach new design principles for educational settings, flexible open classrooms that broke the strict linear layout of the preceding formal Victorian classroom. Similarly, we have the Violet Leduc model of historical church carpentry that was made to instruct craftsmen on the restoration of holy buildings in 19th century France. From childhood, we are model makers and architects. The oldest toy in the exhibition is a box of building blocks from around 1900s, which belonged to the architect Cedric Price. In their box, the pieces now take on the quality of a collectible, but they were very much designed with play and experimentation in mind. We also have some R-kit sets that are a contemporary take on model kits, and they're designed to be enjoyed by both kids and adults alike. So models are used in filmmaking, and we have 2 examples of stop-motion animation film sets in the exhibition made by Andy Gent and his team at Arch Models Studio. We have this set next to me, which is of New York. It's made for a stop-motion film called Floors, which is coming out soon. And we also have the living room from Save Ralph, a film made for the Humane Society International to campaign for the end of animal testing. The architectural interiors of the set are incredibly detailed, and if you look closely you can see amazing intricate detail, like all the books have had their names changed to be rabbit puns, and you can even see that help has been written on the fridge. It's a very serious story, but through the use of architectural models it can really help engross the viewer and create different worlds for us to think about topics in different ways. We also have some models in the show that represent a more poetic form of architecture and space making, like the imagined world created by artist Karen Brickcliffe to illustrate the cover of People from My Neighbourhood, written by Hiromi Kawakami. We also have Ellie Sampson's wishlist city model that she made as a form of escapism during the coronavirus pandemic, when she could not go on her dream backpacking adventure. This personal project references the animated films of Studio Ghibli, fantastical illustrations by Tetoku Shunen, and Hong Kong Airbnbs to create an imaginary Asian cityscape. Jelly itself is a dreamlike substance, and jelly makers and architects Bompas and Parr, following in the footsteps of their 19th century predecessors Benham and Froude, bring together architectural model making and jelly to recreate an icon, St. Paul's Cathedral.